like, we make it here and we only make like, I don't know, a sheet tray that we cut into 100 things.
I
And it's just
I've
made of,
seen those. Yeah, I even have recipes for protein bars.
yeah.
Um, I used to make some once in a while. I'm trying to long time ago.
Yeah. I've
Back when I had
dabbled with, I make house-made granola and I also grind my own peanut butter. And I was like, should those two things just go together into a bar? And it's just trying to find out the right ratios. And Uh, have not had success yet because I think one thing I'm still lacking is that sweetener that makes people come back to bars, and it's
Oh, okay, folks,
typically
we
like,
are live here.
sure, no
Uh,
problem.
let's talk
And the
about that. I'd
um,
love to experiment. Okay.
yeah, I think it's that the brown rice syrup, I think, is like the go-to on most wrapper ingredients. It's like, yep, it's sweet, it's a binder, so
Honey?
that's something I have to look for.
one thing that can be good, keep some leftover chicken or something in the fridge. Well, with that, we actually were jumped the gun, and we were talking to Peter, who's a caterer, and we wanted to welcome you to our second segment of Quantum Leap with David and Cory. And Cory, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and telling us how you know Peter.
All right. Well, I am Cory Knott, and I am the partners coach. I coach business partners to have a fantastic relationship. And ideally, they already have a relationship outside of the business that they want to protect. So, inside and out, they are getting along well and having a great business. And I know Peter from BNI. I mean, I just only recently met, but I can say that his wife is also a caterer for another chapter where I used to visit frequently. Um, and I knew the other caterer there, so if they let her take over from after he passed on, um, then obviously they're doing a very good job because they have high standards. So I really welcome Peter to our chapter.
Yeah, yeah, and he we're glad to have him, and I've we've already talked, but I'm going to let him actually tell us about his story and his bio. Peter, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and telling us who you are, a bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. Thank you for having me on your show. Yes, my name is Peter Callis, and I'm with the Table Catering. As Cory said, my wife is Nicole, and we have a combined experience of now 30 plus years of being in the industry of cooking. I actually started out going to culinary school because I felt like I started late in the industry at 24. I know, but I was coming just out of graduating from University of California, Berkeley as a chemist with an art minor. And I felt compelled to just change careers right after I graduated. So culinary school I went. I did two different programs, the Cordon Bleu Culinary Arts and the Baking and Pastry. And then from there, I needed to get work to pay off all that student debt. And I landed a job at Bucci's Italian restaurant in Emeryville. And I had recently heard from an old employee that she had passed away recently. So rest in peace. But that's where I got my chops wet as a line cook. And from there, I wanted it to be a career, and they didn't have any way to promote in that restaurant. So I moved on to fine dining, in which I was working at Garibaldi's on College. I know there's a Garibaldi's on Presidio. The chef at the time there allowed me to really understand the meaning behind fine dining and what it took to get there. I put in more hours than I should have worked, but I was gung ho and hungry, and I wanted my career to take off as fast as it could. And he walked away from that job after I was there for about 2 years, but he called me up right afterwards and said, "Come work at Google Mountain View." And that was when I went from fine dining to corporate cooking. So working at Google, not for Google. I was a red badger, wasn't a Googler, but the perks were still great and the time was still great. And I understood more of what it would take as a manager in the culinary field rather than just a line cook. And I spent some time with him as well at the largest cafe, Charlie's Cafe, cooking for 2,000 people for one meal period. So that's a lot of chopping. And from there, I because I was starting a family, I didn't want the 2 hours of commute plus 10 hours of working to get in the way of starting a new family. I ended up getting a job with a nonprofit called the Society of St. Vincent de Paul of Alameda County, in which I became their culinary chef instructor. So it was my first chef role, but it was a chef role that also was training people up and in the culinary field from past lives, previous lives, whether they were homeless or incarcerated or just looking for a new job. And all of our uh, byproducts of cooking by teaching all went to feed the homeless or anyone who wanted food on MLK and 23rd. So nonprofit work is part of my background. And from there, turns out the church I was going to at the time after I was married, the hospitality director, she had a heart attack and she didn't want to come back to work. She wanted to go figure something else out. And so my church asked me to come and replace her. And so I did. And that was another 5 years of my life, just cooking every week for 200 people and trying to be outward facing and having it just be $7 for all you can eat buffet and really working on kind of how to make a meal on a budget but as tasty as possible only with volunteers. And I learned that the more you can get food at scratch than already purchased, or the more actually more flavor you can control and the cheaper the ingredients are. So that started my journey down the rabbit hole of figuring out each ingredient and working with that. So I think I've worked the whole realm of culinary from fine dining to corporate to nonprofit. And really, I think that has rounded our catering company kind of well in regards to who do we want to serve, what do we want to serve, and how do we go about it?
Yeah, no, well put. I remember that college street is almost, I'd say, like one of the best places for restaurants in the whole Bay Area. Of course, the
Yeah.
city has a lot of places, but they're kind of tucked a lot of different places. Rarely do you see one little strip. Like college has always had a history for like years and years, ever since I've been here. I forget that Italian restaurant catty corner to the Rockridge Bar. Remember, it had like a lower cafe and an upper. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
still there.
Olivettos, one of
Olivettos,
those
yeah, yeah,
those daughters of Chez Panisse background. People who started Olivettos or worked there tend to
Neatly.
come from Chez Panisse. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah, yeah. That place is amazing. I still remember that celery root soup there, and I used to take my daughter when she was a baby to that cafe. They had like a breakfast pizza, and for the lunch, it was amazing, that cafe. So yeah.
Nice.
Um, I'm gonna we want to just take a look at a few photos that you had just to showcase some of your food, and
Sure.
if you don't mind sharing a little bit about
Yeah.
your inspiration as a chef. I know you have like a number of dishes that you can do, but for example, we were looking at an event that still we haven't still nailed down a date, but I love the ideas that you came up with about a non-alcoholic lemonade or
Oh,
appetizers.
yes.
So if you're looking at an event, you can also do big, parties for, 50 plus or whatever, which we're also talking about. But if you don't mind just sharing us a little bit about some of your inspiration and what you like to do.
Absolutely. So the table catering, what makes us more unique is the fact that our cuisine has been described as pre-industrial, meaning that we don't use refined flours or any refined sugars. So to sweeten something like a lemonade, like you're talking about, instead of just using general table sugar, I go and find local honey as our sweetener source. And I've been blessed with a property that came with a 6 foot wide Meyer lemon tree. So when that's in season, I tend to just pick off Meyers from my own tree and make lemonade with that. And it's actually a little bit less acidic than our store bought lemons that we're used to. So you don't actually have to use as much sugar either. And it's a little bit more floral because it's, grown locally and it's fresher. No shellac was needed to make it shiny looking or anything like that. And that's just one example of our like kind of uh, moving away from just the refined sugars is using honey. I'm sharing my screen right now. I'm just going to show you a few photos. This
Yeah.
here is an example of uh, a small bite slider that we make using house-made bread. It uses a recipe called a gougere. It's basically pâte à choux batter that's been baked up, and mixed in with it is cheese. And we use a whole grain flour grown out of Cape Valley by a place called Cape Mills. And I found that when working with whole grain flour, if you just stick to the tried and true recipes of bread making, it makes great bread, but it's dense and also has like a 1 day shelf life before it's noticeably dry, brittle, or break apart. So a cream puff recipe has every ingredient you would find in like a brioche minus the yeast. And I've been finding that that holds up really well for a couple of days, and it can make like a better meat or filling to bread ratio for making little sliders like this. And this is a lemongrass chicken, a pickled daikon carrot, cilantro, banh mi slider filling that we make little sliders for heavy apps, small bites, appetizers for large events. Next, we have the most local salad niçoise that you'll ever see right now in the East Bay. Um, just a little bit of history. The salad niçoise is made in Italy or France in a little town called Nice. That's what it was named after the town it was created in. So I don't call this one niçoise. I call it salad auxoise because I want to make sure that all of the ingredients in this salad are from the Bay Area, from a farmer's market. So it's market potatoes, market green beans, uh, eggs that are grown by pasture raised chickens from Burroughs Family Farms in a little town of Denair, Modesto, you know, in season tomatoes, seasonal lettuces, and things like that. So it's like, hey, how can we make this classic dish the same, but using ingredients that are found locally? And yes, we even have anchovies at the Fisherman's Wharf. You can go down there. It's $15 for a bag. And yeah, we can fillet our own anchovies and cure them in lemon juice and olive oil. So I was like, hey, what better way to say like how fresh a salad can be and how flavorful it can be by just working with ingredients that are local and around us. What else we have? So we get a lot of requests to make sure that there's at least one or two items that are free from gluten and vegan. And this is just a representative of using an endive lettuce cup and making a major graze pear chutney in house, garnishing with pomegranates and herbs. So it's one way of saying, yeah, we got your back. We can make something that can be tasty and delicious, preserved in house using honey and molasses, no other sweeteners, and it's going to have a lot of different flavor profiles going on and contrast of texture. And this is something that's more recent. So my wife doesn't like birthday cake, but for her birthday, I have to either make pie or a cheesecake. And one of the flavors for the cheesecake this year was cookies and cream. So I got a black cocoa powder and basically made my own Oreos for the cookies part. And it turns out Oreo filling, yes, their product uses uh, vegetable shortening and sugar. I found a way to make the same filling but with clarified butter and our own powdered sugar. So I learned how to make powdered sugar in house by pulverizing coconut sugar in a blender with tapioca starch. And so I'm getting the same effect using the idea of what Oreo's doing, but making them in house to make a cookies and cream cheesecake for my wife's birthday. Good. And I think lastly here is a portrayal of what we've done to showcase what we can make using a platter buffet system for a large group of people. I just like the look of platters more than I like the look of Schaefer's. Yes, I've come from a lot of working with Schaefer's, and Schaefer's holds a lot of food and it makes sure it stays hot the whole time. And I'm like, hey, I bet I can make the food just as hot. I'll just serve a little less and put it on platters but make the look of the buffet a little bit more elevated. And so this is a photo of one of the dinners we did for a small group of people, about 50, in the room I'm actually talking in. And it's just showcasing kind of the food that we had for winter. So there was, I think, roasted pork loin on top of sauteed cabbage with a little apples, mashed potatoes, and sauteed garlicky green beans and sliced almonds in this dish.
Oh, great. Um, you know, I just am always impressed with like the ingredients you use and how you kind of put your own signature on almost like so much of what you use. You know, for example, you make your own soy sauce, you make your own peanut butter. A lot of these things are just almost something totally that I've never seen done before. And then it really enhances the flavor. So it's probably the best soy sauce or peanut butter that somebody might have had, or it's definitely the most unique. But I'm going to turn it over to Cory just for any reaction and a few questions.
Yeah, no, I do look forward to getting to know you better over time. And I was just thinking, there's some things that I'd love to see more information because you present really well on like this is where I source this product and this is where it comes from. And I've worked with other caterers who also make wonderful local food, vegan caterers, things like that. And but
Yeah.
we don't always get that same information, and I think that that's really fascinating. And I'd
Mm.
love to pick your brain about it more. I suggest writing a book, but or have AI write a book. Just yeah, because some of us would love to know that kind of thing. As somebody who used to make a lot of beer, it's kind of the same thing. Like, where do I get these ingredients really
Yeah.
locally? So what would you say is your why? I mean, what drives your passion behind making food?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that question a lot because with my roles as being in nonprofits, I have served clients who have and clients who do not have. And I can see sort of the discrepancies between what we serve clients that do have enough and what we serve clients that don't have access to enough. And I kind of want to be a nice intercessor and saying, hey, as much as we serve people who have the means to be able to present with good food and it's presented well and it's for festivities, we also want to have part of our business being able to share that same experience with those who may not be able to have access to it. All people should have access to food that's nourishing or at least tasty in a way that's separated from the industry in which an industrial standard may not have our greatest health as their priority. And so one of the byproducts of just breaking free from saying what the industry has and working with ingredients that are local or from scratch is you can find actually tastier aspects of food because you're not worried about something being shelf stable or something having to travel long distances. And with that tasty food, it becomes a lot more health benefits too. So the why I cook, I think, is this long-term goal of what happens if in the community that we're working alongside with, we see another break in the supply chain and we don't have access to something that we're used to. I want to be the kind of guy that has the knowledge to say, okay, that no longer exists for now. How can we still get food to people in a way that wasn't part of that supply chain and that we can work with local sources and still make something for people?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I know you had the example of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you made for the church, which was maybe where you got that homemade peanut butter, but you also made the jam. I'm like, that's one of the best PB and J's you'll ever have, all locally sourced, for example.
That's right. Yeah, I think PB and J's have been uh, a constant thread in my life growing up. I'm sure you guys too have memories of when a PBJ really hit the spot or someone serving you a PBJ. And I can think back to even like my grandparents' house and they introduced me to the idea that you can put potato chips in your PBJ and the whole experience just changes dramatically. And you're like, whoa, the crunch factor, or like the sourdough bread and sour cream and onion kind of combination goes wild. And then there was a time, my first vacation ever as a young adult, where it was a true vacation, got vacation pay, and I traveled, went up to Portland, Oregon, and there was just this street side vendor turned restaurant that were making griddled PBJs for customers. And they had different combinations like Concord grape jam, Bartlett pears, and blue cheese just on a toasted sandwich, griddled with like butter. And I was like, wow, they're really elevating the PBJ to like the next level. And I've like, wanted to take some of those ideas and be like, I want to do that. But right now I'm in this church and all I'm seeing is Costco bought sliced bread and jars of Costco bought, peanut butter and jelly. Let's just go back to the basics and see where these things come from and how we can just make it kind of for us, by us, in house, and just start with that. And then we can play around after that. Because I've done recently, like when my grandma passed away, I inherited her waffle iron. So instead of bread, I would use 2 squares of a American waffle toasted and put PB&J that, and maybe even just put a fried egg in the middle, and that'd be a great breakfast or a lunch snack to be on. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's important to learn how to eat well.
Uh-huh.
Um, all right, I'm trying to find
Just a time check. We got about 3 minutes here.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. So who is your ideal client?
Ideal clients right now. So I love cooking for people. And if someone's like, hey, we got a party, it's for 200, we need a buffet, I'm their contact. And because I love people who want food for 200 in an elevated platter buffet setting, clients that actually own venue spaces or are event planners that bring multiple people that are looking for parties of 200, those are the clients that are wonderful to work with, because if I can get a partnership with them, they've worked with us, they know what our food values are like, they can share about that, we can have repeat business with their establishment. Those are great clients to have, because then we have repeated business, and then those groups of people are kind of funneled through and see kind of photos on their websites and what we're about, and kind of like that. And because we're a husband and wife team and a small boutique catering, we can be with those clients throughout the whole process of their event, make sure that they have accommodations for food for all of their guests.
Do you have any examples of venues in the Bay Area that you like?
Yeah, we have repeated work at like Children's Fairyland. We're
Mm-hmm.
at the Berkeley Botanical Gardens is another one.
That's a good
We've
one.
done, yeah, we've done work at CL, another place. Town and Gown is a great spot there on Dwight in Berkeley. So, but I know there's more
Anywhere.
venues out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each one has its own sort of collaborative effort. So it's just a matter of finding the right niche and growing alongside.
Nice.
Yeah, and you also something to look out for, folks. He does offer certain pickup days, like for example, on Thanksgiving, you'll drop off specialized meals. I don't know if you're doing that for Valentine's Day or what other types of days you actually do kind of preset menus that you'll either drop off or people can pick up.
Yep. Every now and again, we'll put that in our newsletter and we'll have it promoted on our website. And our website's thetablecatering.com. So you can look there for more information.
Okay, great. Well, look forward to taking some pictures when we hopefully get these events scheduled and sharing more about some of our experiences with you. And so look forward to hopefully having you back, and we'll also see you in the morning as well.
That's right. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, folks, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Quantum Leap. We'll see you next time.